Hi everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. Come along with me today to make my very simple vegetarian lasagna. This vegetarian lasagna switches up all the time. Basically, I like to use my homemade broth plus a homemade tomato sauce that I make. So I'll be making it here. And then I just add in whichever vegetables I happen to have in the fridge and put it together in a lasagna with a little bit of cheese, and that's all it takes. All right, what I'm gonna do is I really like to soften my veggies with chicken broth. With my homemade broth, I don't, sometimes I see people showing recipes where they're roasting all of their vegetables and then they add a bunch of oil and things. I'm not so interested in doing that, so I don't do it. So you wanna keep it nice and light, and it's just so yummy that way, to be honest. So I have some of my chicken broth here. Just need to open it slowly. I'm going to go ahead and add some to my pan. In this pan, I'm going to be putting my very thinly sliced pieces of squash, which is going to go in this lasagna, and zucchini. So those are going to be the two main vegetables. I also had some frozen cauliflower. I'm going to go ahead and add that as well for funsies. What am I going to do? Let me first slice my squash. So I really don't need a lot. As you can see, I just have a few small pieces here, like the size of my hand. And you want to slice them thin so that it can be cooked through really well. You do not want to end up with any kind of chewy, hard pieces in your lasagna, because nobody like that. Ain't nobody got time for that. I'm also gonna put the zucchini in. Maybe it's smarter to do them separate, but I will at least slice my zucchini so it's ready to go. Just gonna slicing it quite thin, okay? So not crazy thin. You do want it to have some body to it, but zucchini is one of those vegetables that for vegetable lasagna, it is just perfect. Most people love it. I mean, who doesn't like zucchini? One of those really nice root vegetables, which honestly are my favorite kinds of vegetables. The root vegetables, you have the potatoes, sweet potato, squash, pumpkin, zucchini. You really can't argue with those. They just go so well in so many recipes. All right, so I'm gonna pop them in my wooden bowl, all of this zucchini. I really like these no fuss recipes. I just kind of make stuff up. I don't get too excited about it. I don't get too crazy. This is why I really like to cook, and I find baking a little bit more challenging because I don't necessarily like being precise. Just kind of, when I bake, I have to measure everything out, and that's fine. I've gotten better at it. But with cooking, I really just kind of go with how I feel. Does anyone else do the same? If I feel like putting a bit of this in, I'll put that, or I don't know. Or if I feel like just kind of leaving stuff out, sometimes I'll just do that as well. I don't worry about it too much. Okay, so garlic, you really can never go wrong with garlic. Like, I may add to this, I don't know, half a head of garlic. Sorry, I'm not looking at the camera because I really got to pay attention to not cut myself. I'm slicing the garlic. I am preheating both of my pans. I'm also preheating my oven. All right, so the base sauce I'm going to make is just a really nice tomato sauce. Now with my vegetarian lasagna, I don't go crazy on the cheese, but there is absolutely cheese. So my favorite thing to use is shepherd's cheese. I'll sprinkle some shepherd's cheese on each layer of my lasagna, but mozzarella I do not. Mozzarella I will add on the top. So I also love to put some fresh basil if I have, but I don't always have it on hand. I just need some olive oil. I also just remembered that I had bought some mushrooms earlier today, so I am going to use that. Let me turn this down. I don't want my garlic to burn. All right, I'm just gonna slice up some more squash. I realized I didn't have that much cooking and I want some more. You wanna have enough for like each layer of your lasagna, and if you buy a squash, it really goes a long way. Okay, I have all this squash cooking. So that you can see what's going on over here. I have this cooking in chicken broth, so that's really good. I'm going to cover that so that it cooks properly. My garlic's already getting excited. which means I'm gonna go ahead, I'm taking it off the fire for a moment. I'm gonna add some tomato paste. I just kind of throw a bunch in. I don't think it really matters how much you put in. Like, really, who cares? And let me cover my veggies so that it can really kind of simmer in there. I'm gonna mix this around. I'm keeping my garlic off the fire until I'm back on track. This is what happens when I rush. I have to pick up the girls from childcare soon. So does anyone else do this where you delay, the things that you have to do, like making dinner, and then you're a little bit behind and you're like, I am going to chop up quickly these mushrooms because I decided to add them in. These mushrooms, what I'm gonna do is put them in my garlic, let them cook just a little bit. I also need to get some of my herbs that I'm gonna be putting in, which is, like basil, oregano. Those really do the trick. You don't need to go crazy with your herbs. You can use dried herbs in the recipe and then fresh on top. Like, I like to put basil right on top. Okay, I'm just gonna add in these mushrooms. Beautiful. Okay, I'll put it back on the fire, but again, I'm gonna put it down to a 4. This lasagna, I actually just made this the other day for the family, but it just went immediately. So it was gone on the same day, this large platter. So I think, why not make some more? I'm not sure you can have too much of a good thing. Get some herbs going. Basil, oregano, and pepper. I even had them still in the same spot. What I'll also do, even though I have lots of garlic in there, I'm gonna add some powdered garlic because everyone loves garlic. Everyone loves it. I don't do too much pepper because I don't wanna, my family can't handle hot too much. Even just a bit of pepper is a lot. They are, I was gonna say part Hungarian, but it's true. Okay, so I'm sauteing my garlic. I'm sauteing the mushrooms. Now, like I said, I was going to add some cauliflower, so I'm doing that now. I'm gonna also just kind of slice it up. I'm just gonna put this in the sauce. So the things that I'm going to layer are the squash and zucchini. The rest of the veggies are just gonna be kind of smooshed in with the sauce. So, also don't be afraid to use some frozen vegetables because you know how frozen produce, maybe you've also heard this, but frozen produce is kind of said to have more nutritional value than fresh produce because they freeze it usually right when they pick it. So it doesn't have time to for the nutritional value to kind of deteriorate. So that's what I've heard. I don't know how true or not true it is, but it does make intuitive sense to me. I'm gonna go ahead and add some salt to this. Some Maldon salt. First of all, it's a beautiful texture. It's this beautiful flaky, sea salty texture, and I really like it. But also it's been found to have the lowest or one of the lowest heavy metal contents of salt. And I've heard a lot about salt carrying a lot of heavy metals, and we don't like that, of course. So that's one of the reasons we've been trying out Maldon salt. It's also meant to have some important trace minerals for your body. I use Maldon salt in my homemade electrolyte mix, which I'm going to do a video on so you can see the recipe I use for that. But I swear by these electrolytes, and it's been doing me I've had such amazing benefits from drinking electrolytes. And yeah, so Maldon salt is one of the salts that I use in that electrolyte mix as well. I have exactly 10 minutes before I have to leave to get the girls. So do we think I can finish this in that time? Probably not, but I can set it to cook. So then I'll do that, and when I come back, we'll finish up the video. Now I'm just adding in 2 cans of tomatoes. Here's one. Here's the second can. I also really like to put, even though I try to use the least amount of kind of processed packaged food as possible, I like to put some of the store-bought sauce in addition to my sauce, and that's totally fine by me. So one of the ones I use is really just, this one has a little bit of herbs, and I just get the one that has absolutely no added strange things in it and no added sugar, oil, and stuff like that, just to keep it kind of as clean as possible. But I do use it, absolutely use it. You want to have plenty of sauce because if you run out of sauce, you want your lasagna sheets to be totally drenched in sauce. I actually did not know how to make lasagna until like last year. You would think a family with so many kids, I would be making huge platters of lasagna all the time, but I went years without making lasagna. Don't ask me why. For a while, I was making a lot of vegetable soup. That was like my main thing. So now I've switched. I still make vegetable soup, but I think I do more lasagna these days. All right. I love the chicken soup thing. I add it to everything. My chicken broth, I'm going to add some to my sauce as well, just to give it more body and flavor, because flavor just makes everything great, doesn't it? I have my beautiful vegetables still cooking here, and they look like they're getting a bit softer, which is great. Let's turn this up. I'll be back for our finishing, putting the whole thing together. See you then. Hi everyone, we're back. I just changed the camera to be a little bit closer. I hope that looks better. So, got the girls from childcare. Everyone is taken care of for a few minutes so I can finish up the lasagna recipe. This has been cooking really beautifully. I think all the flavors have melded nicely, so it's ready to be put into my lasagna. I also found some frozen sweet potato that I had that was already in slices from the last time I made a veggie lasagna. So I'm gonna be adding that in addition to my squash and zucchini, okay? And here's my cheese. So I really don't go nuts on the cheese, but I'm also, not afraid of using some cheese to make it yummy. I have some mozzarella cheese. It's about half a cup. And I have some shepherd's cheese. I really like to use shepherd's cheese. I actually prefer it over feta cheese for many recipes. Feta cheese I find to be like kind of more crumbly, and shepherd's cheese, somehow it's similar to feta. It has a similar flavor, but it holds a little nicer, and I like that. So I use some shepherd's cheese. I weighed this one. It's 120 grams. I don't even know if I'm going to use the whole thing. We'll see how we go. So what I'm going to do, I start with my veggies. I'm going to start with the sweet potato because it's nice and thick. So I'm going to put that at the bottom. You do want something kind of nice and thick at the bottom of your lasagna to, put a nice base there. And like I said, you want to make sure all your vegetables are properly cooked. Do not put something in that you can't pierce with a fork because you will regret it. There have been times when I was a little bit impatient and I thought, it's not entirely cooked, but it'll be fine. It's going to go into the oven. Always wrong. Always wrong. I always think it's just going to cook naturally, and it doesn't, and then I regret everything I've ever done. So there goes my sweet potato, all already put. Now I'm going to layer up some zucchini. I think the next layer I'll do squash. You can always play with it as well with vegetable lasagna. Like, it doesn't have to be uniform at all. That's actually the fun. That's where your creativity comes in. There we go. There's one layer of zucchini. So I'm not going to be layering zucchini on the whole thing. I just put one layer and it's perfect. I'll show you how that looks, just like this. Next, the sauce. So it's important that each layer has a good amount of sauce, especially for the pasta sheets. You want them to cook properly. Next, I'm going to put some cheese. The mozzarella cheese I save for the top, so I just do shepherd's cheese, just crumble it and throw it on in the layers. That gives that really nice cheesy yumminess all throughout. Next, we have pasta sheets. I like to use ones that, I suppose a benefit from being in Europe is that we have access to straight from Italy pasta sheets, so that's nice. Okay, it's all layered there. So now I'm going to go ahead and do my squash. And I'm saving, remember that I cooked my squash and my zucchini in chicken soup, like in my chicken broth. So I'm going to save this little bit of broth because at the very end, it's always good to kind of just make sure your lasagna sheets are soaked. You don't want them to go in and not be able to cook fully. So I'm going to save that and just pour it right on top. So even though this is vegetarian lasagna, there is chicken broth. And of course you can use vegetable broth. So it's completely up to you. Ours just happens to be that I'm not actually adding meat into the lasagna. Okay. Now again, layer it with sauce. We do also like meat lasagna, by the way. I find the veggie lasagna just nice and light. And Even my kids who don't love vegetables, like my more picky kids, tend to like it because, I don't know, it's warm and comforting. So it works really well for everyone. Okay, there's my other layer. I'm gonna go ahead and add my shepherd's cheese again. And then I'm gonna add the lasagna sheets. Same. Here we are. Lasagna sheets, sauce, and this, I believe, will be the last layer. So just gonna spread this out. For the finale, right on top, I just add some mozzarella and not very much. So, like I said, about half a cup, just spread it out. It's just to give that last nice finish, but it doesn't need to be heavy. I also have made lasagna with bechamel sauce when I was pregnant. Oh my gosh, I was craving that so much. I had my homemade bechamel sauce, that was my whole thing, and that's all I wanted. Okay, now I'm just gonna cover this. This is how it looks. Beautiful, beautiful lasagna. I'm just gonna cover it with some aluminum foil, pop it in the oven for an hour at 180 degrees Celsius or 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And after an hour, we'll see how it looks. Good luck with your lasagna, and I hope to see you back in my kitchen for the next recipe.